What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about money. Money is an important subject, and I'll tell you why. Because without it, your life gets pretty miserable. There's a lot of things and stuff that you can buy and do with money, experiences that you can create with money. When you don't have it, forget about those things. Like, you don't get the things that you actually want in life. I think you can live a more fulfilling life and a more peaceful life, which is what I've always been after. It's just peace. Don't we all want peace? Like, don't you want peace? I know I do. And money helps give me a little peace. Like, knowing that I have enough, or that I have some to give me some space to not have to be in a frenzy to go make it, or to trade all of my time to make it, gives me peace. But it wasn't always this way. When I first started out, I was broke all the time. We spent all the money we had and then some, because back then you could write checks, and we would write hot checks and bounce those checks, and then we'd have to pay for whatever the amount was on the check the next payday, plus all of the fees that the bank would charge us and the fees that the store would charge us for not having the money, not having the funds in the account. So that was one of the turning points for me, when I went and took my check and I deposited like $600. And I can't remember the exact amount, but I got the receipt because the teller was like, "Kelly, would you like a receipt?" And I'm just like, "Sure." I get it, and I drive away from the window, and I've got like $38 in my account. And I'm like, ugh, I couldn't believe it, because this was one of those things that I had been fighting for a while, and it just finally got to the point where it took my whole check to pay for all the bounce check fees, all the bad check fees, and to pay for the things we had already written checks for. So anyhow, I don't come from money, never came from money. When I first started to actually pay attention to my money, it was a little bit before that happened. And I'll tell you what happened is I read a book. I don't remember exactly which book. It was probably The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. Or it was something that I heard that Bob Proctor said. And as you might know, Bob Proctor, he studied Think and Grow Rich for 50 some odd years, and his whole business was around teaching all these success principles that Napoleon Hill taught. And he said that in order to start to break the cycle of this scarcity mindset, is take a $100 bill and just put it in your wallet. Take that $100 bill, put it in your wallet, and do not spend it. So that's what I did. Started to do that. And there were a couple of times early on where I went to go pay for something, or I wanted something, and I didn't really have the money. But I did have the money because I had that $100 bill, and I'd go ahead and spend it. But I made it a priority. Once I spent it, I made it a priority to replace it as quickly as I could. And eventually it got to the point where I would delay my gratification long enough that I could put another $100 bill in there, and another. And then for years, and even to this day, I carry at least $1,000 in my wallet. It's simply just so I feel more secure about having money. There was some weird expense that came up, and if I didn't have the money in my checking account, well, I had the cash to take care of it. So it's like it gives me a sense of peace to have a little bit of cash on me. And I like cash just because it's so easy to spend with your card and not realize just how much you've spent. So I read Dave Ramsey's book. What's the name of his book? I've got it on my bookshelf here somewhere. So I read Dave Ramsey's book, and I started to pay attention to my money, because I had always avoided it before, because I hated the subject of money, because we never had any, and it created rifts, between me and my wife, and we'd argue about it. And it's one of the number one causes of divorce is financial strain, when there's a financial strain on the relationship. So rightfully so, we argued about it. But I started to pay attention to it. We had all these little bills. At the time, we probably had like 30 bills because my wife had a little stint in the hospital. And if you've ever experienced that, you get bills from every Tom, Dick, and Harry that you never even met, who just stop by and talk to your wife or talk to you for a couple of minutes, and they send you an $80 bill, a $130 bill, a $400 bill, a $600 bill, a $30 bill. And these bills were just stacking up. And we didn't have insurance at the time because I didn't have enough money to buy insurance. So after reading Dave Ramsey's book, I did what he said to do. I started the snowball effect. I paid off the bills that I could. I started with some small bills, paid those off, got some wins, and built some momentum around taking care of this debt. And then once I got all the little stuff paid off, then I started paying on the big stuff. And eventually I knocked it down. And all the while during this time, because I wasn't earning a whole lot of extra money, I was learning the skill of delayed gratification. To stop just spending and buying anything I want whenever I want. And that was a blessing, because I could tell you the amount of peace that I have now versus the amount of peace that I never had back then is night and day. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of frameworks here to help you maybe change the way that you view money or how you look at money, if money seems to be scarce in your household. So the first thing I'll start with to share with you is Dr. John Demartini. He was on The Secret. If you've ever watched the movie The Secret, if you've never watched it, go watch it. You know, it'll hopefully inspire you and motivate you a little bit to start dreaming again. But Dr. John Demartini, ever since I saw him on The Secret, I started following him. And I've followed him ever since. And I've paid him several $1,000s over the course of the last decade. Taking some of his courses and attending some of his events. My wife and I were actually I had already paid the money to go to an event in Houston right before COVID hit. And I wound up having to, I got like a discount because they just delivered it online instead. So I have not went and seen Dr. John in person, but that's one of my goals because I want to meet him. He's a phenomenal individual whom I really have a deep respect for. He's a polymath, so he's a genius in all the ologies, like sociology, physiology, biology, psychology. Like, he is a genius, and he's built some frameworks, and he's got such a deep understanding of these subjects that he can explain it and help people in those particular areas through the different methods that he's created or models that he's built. But he's done deep, extensive work on values, because values direct our behavior. So the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to money, I learned from Dr. John. He says that if you do not have money in at least your top 5 values, like if you don't make it a priority, then you'll never have any. So part of the psychology behind keeping $100 in your wallet, looking at that $100, not spending it, even if it's the last money you have, making money more important in your life, doing that means that you're raising the value of money. And it's a must. It is an absolute must. So when it comes to purchasing stuff that rust, rots, or depreciates, or winds up in the trash bin, or breaks and you got to throw it away and it's just not worth anything, or it doesn't have the opportunity to help you either appreciate yourself in value through developing your skill set, or purchasing a tool that helps you be more efficient so you can earn more money. If it doesn't do those things, we got to stop spending money on those things, because you're making earning money a priority. Earning money, investing money, stacking money, increasing the value of your money, that has to be a priority. So the way that he describes it is, if you took a person who's a mother and they value their children more than anything. If they walked into a bookstore, guess what they're going to notice? I mean, what do you think they would notice? They're going to notice the kids' books. They're going to notice maybe the little toy section that's in, if you've got a Barnes & Noble, our Barnes & Noble has like a little toy section. They're going to notice anything that revolves around the children because that's a high priority. If I walk into a Barnes & Noble, you might be able to guess what's going to grab my attention, where my focus is going to go. It's going to be on business books. It's going to be on personal development, self-improvement, because that's my jam. It's a high on my value list. You could also look at your bank account or your credit card statement and just look over the past 2 or 3 months, where did your money go? Because wherever that money went, that's what you value. So whatever those things are that you're spending money on that you value, there's got to be room in there to start valuing money. And when you put it in one of your top 5 values and you start paying attention to it, then you're going to have more of it. So I had to cover that because that's so important. You have to make money, earning money, collecting money, investing money. It's got to become a priority. It's got to become one of your values if you ever want to have any in the future. So there are okay, when it comes to your earning potential, I want to show you this. Think of this as just like stairs to making more money, right? This is way more money up here. There's a little bit of money here. This one is actually infinite. And then there's some money here. So if you want to get to the top of the staircase where you're making a lot more money, then the bottom of the staircase right here, that's when you're using your muscles. If you use your muscles, you're trading all your time for money. So if you are the technician, like Michael E. Gerber's The E-Myth, if you're the technician and you're doing all the stuff, you're providing the service, your earning potential is limited because the number of hours in a day is limited. And if you ever want to escape that and get to the next level, you got to start engaging your mind. And this is a big bucket. Like the mind section here is a big bucket because it includes your communication skills, your leadership, improving your leadership, improving the way you think, to stop being so negative all the time. Start focusing on what you want instead of what you don't want. It includes your ability to communicate a message, to speak, which I said those things. It also includes your relationships because you're using your mind to develop better relationships. This is all about being proactive instead of reactive. So if you're just an emotional mess who's always reacting to everything and you can't control your emotions, then you're probably going to stay down here in this category and just continue to use your muscles to make money. But if you can start to gain a level of control over those things through learning about personal development and learning more about business, then you'll get to use your mind more. In the mind category, you start paying attention to maybe KPIs in your business. This is where you're going to be developing, you might be developing some processes here, right? Processes that the definition of a process is a series of tasks that produce an intended outcome, basically. A desired outcome. Maybe not desired. I'm trying to think of the word. I have to look it up again. It's been a while since I've taught this. But it's like a definite end, right? Like if I wrote a process on how to turn the lights off, it would be, well, you walk over behind the lights, there's 2 switches, switch the one on the left, the light goes off. If I wanted the light off, that is the definitive end of the process. So in business, the definitive end of the process is to earn more money. And so the process that you write needs to be geared towards being as efficient as possible. And quite possibly, if it's direct customer interacting, then it might be to end with the collection of money, right? If that makes sense. So processes, your communication, your ability to think, your ability to become proactive instead of reactive, and your ability to control emotional decisions, emotional outbursts, all of those things. Once you continue to develop that, then you're using your mind a lot more. And the more you use your mind, the more money you're going to make. The next step up is, and I had developed this before before Alex Hormozy came out with money models for his final book, the Money Models book. But it is models. And I want you to think about models as like, I look at a book. It's like a model for something. It either tells a story that entertains people or it teaches people something. So that's a model. If I was to build a machine like a prototype, and then I was to develop that and manufacture that machine, and it helped get a part built or something of that, that's a model. That's how I'm looking at it. At AI, if you built something, let's say you built an AI thing that you could install into a business and then sell it to business owners, and they continue to pay you long after you built it, that would be a model. So models allow you to make an investment, whether it be your time, your energy, your focus, your money, but then long after you continue to make money off of that. A model could just be an idea too that you went and sold to somebody. So you can see, like, we're going to get into the actual pyramid of making more money so that you can increase the amount of money that you have, and I'll tie that into this. But if you want to step up and make more money, you've got to take these steps. So let's get into, let me show you the steps to take when it comes to making sure that there's more money at the end of the month instead of more month at the end of your money. So the first thing you have to get right is your mindset. You got to develop a money mindset. A money mindset believes in delayed gratification. These little hits of dopamine every time you click buy on Amazon or you go to a store and you purchase something, you've got to delay that. I'm not saying you can't have it, but I'm saying put some time in between when you think you want it versus when you actually purchase it. That's delayed gratification. If you do that consistently, most of the time when you're ready to purchase that thing again or you look at it again, the desire to buy it has decreased significantly. Almost to the point on some things where it's going to be like, yeah, I don't need that. Why was I even looking at that? But in the heat of the moment, if you give in to that, you'll just purchase it anyways. We got to stop doing that. That's where get your mind right. It's also around scarcity thinking. That's where the $100 bill comes in. Like, stop thinking like you just never have any money. Most of the time, most people have money. They're just not doing this properly, which is the next step. They're not managing it. Another thing with the mindset before we get fully into management is I always had the mindset that you had to work hard for money, which leads to trading all my time for money. if I wanted to earn more money, there's only so much time in a day, so I can only trade so much time. Where I can make a video like this and tens of or hundreds of thousands. I mean, look at Mr. Beast. Millions of people get to see his videos. So with the internet, with today's technology, with AI to help us, you can multiply yourself. You can decrease the timeline that it used to take to do the same amount of work. So the mindset, the main thing that I wanted to cover before I went into management with the mindset is I just had this idea that you got to work hard for money. And that's when I began to learn, when I started to use my mind more instead of my muscles all the time on that other framework that I just showed you. I learned that there is such thing as working smarter, not harder. Before, I thought if I want to increase what I'm able to do in my business, I can just work longer hours. I can serve more customers. But there's a limit to that. There's a limit in your energy, and there's a limit to the amount of time in a day. But then when you start serving customers in a different way, you can earn a lot more money in a shorter amount of time with fewer customers, which automatically, even if it was just me, becomes more scalable. So work smarter, not harder. That's the main mindset. And stop being so in a scarcity mindset that you never have any. Chances are you do have it, you do have some, but we got to manage it. Now, when I talk about managing it, that means stop the emotional purchasing decisions. Delay gratifications. Delay gratification. Wait before you make the decision. See if you want it a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now. A lot of stuff that you're purchasing, you'll find that you didn't actually want it. And instead of buying stuff that rusts, rots, and depreciates, which is mainly what we do here before we get our mindset right, we rust, rots, depreciates, you're looking at management is what can I buy that would have the potential to increase in value over time. So we're trading today's gratification for gratification tomorrow when I purchase an asset. Versus without the right mindset or management, we're looking for gratification today and we're trading the happiness and gratification tomorrow we're trading it today so that tomorrow we don't get to have that. Well, we want to have it in the future, not just today. So we have to take a portion of our funds and begin to invest in assets that can appreciate in value. I can tell you the number one asset that I have. I do have assets. I've got a building, I've got my home, I've got my intellectual property. The one that I've spent the most money on is me. To increase my skill set, to learn. So you got to look at yourself as an asset. Is this something that when you go to purchase something, is this something that's going to help me move faster in my business, earn more money in my business, make me a better leader? If the answer is yes, and you believe it's a yes, it's probably a good purchasing decision. If it's something that the business is never going to use and it's probably just going to wind up, getting beat up and we're just going to have to throw it away, then don't purchase it because it's going to rust, rot, and depreciate. Vehicles are typically things that rust, rot, and depreciate in value, but sometimes it makes sense from the management side to purchase a vehicle for your business for tax, to reduce your tax liabilities, things like that. Which is another important segment of money management. So the assets. Another thing with management is I personally look at life insurance, not whole life insurance, by the way, but just a term life policy, something that is going to take care of my family if something happens to me. Because we're not invincible. We are all going to die. So just making sure that my family's taken care of, if something happens to me, is important to me, and I hope it's important to you. So I would look at, when it comes to managing your money and stop these emotional purchasing decisions, look at, also with management, comes with reviewing. It's kind of like the values, right? We got to start making money a priority. And when you do that, you begin to look at your money situation on a much more regular basis instead of avoiding it all the time because it might be painful. Just look at it and start doing something about it, right? Take steps towards making it better. So review your expenses, anything that you're not using currently that you're paying money for on a monthly basis. These things stack up over time. Collect this $8 payment here, this $20 payment here, this $19 payment here. By the time you know it, you got $200, $300, $400 going out the door on things that you don't even use or look at anymore. Get into your bank account statement, start reviewing it, and cancel anything that you are not using. Anything for your business that you're paying for that you're not utilizing to its full capability, cancel it. So that is the management. And then the last thing, which, guys, I'm going to tell you, I spent well over $15,000 on money gurus, right? Who share things like how can we magnify our money, right? And they all say this too. At the top of the pyramid here, if you want to increase your lifestyle, if you want to be able to afford more things, then you got to make more. So increase your income. That's the number one thing that we should always keep at top of our minds and our priorities. If money is important to you and you're serious about it. There's an old saying that I think Bob Proctor said years ago, and it stuck with me. It said, when you make money, when you pay attention to money, it starts paying attention to you. But if you don't pay attention to it, it's not paying any attention to you. You get what I'm saying? So the mindset, change it. The management, change it. Make more. This is typically, if you want to make more money, there's typically, you could go ask for a raise and you might get it. You might be in a position where you deserve one right now. Maybe you just don't have the courage to go do that. Well, I'm here to push you. Go do it. What do you have to lose? But look at what you have to gain. Like ask for what you want. But if you don't feel like you probably really deserve a raise and you haven't been giving your 110% effort at work all the time, then, or you run a business but you still haven't figured out how to become really profitable, so the bank account is not growing each day, each year, then you lack skill set. There's a skill set problem. So we need to zero in on where's the problem. And usually you're going to have to invest some money. If you're just clueless, typically you'll have to invest some money with somebody to help you figure out where the gap is so that we can fill that gap and start making some real money in the business. So that is my money model and the stuff that I've learned and have experienced for myself. If you take this seriously and you start investing in you are the number one asset. Like there's never going to be a greater return on investment than your personal learning and your personal development. It will always pay the best dividends, and it'll never stop paying you for the rest of your life. So collect as many skills as you possibly can. Don't be afraid to spend money in that category. Look at, in the beginning, even if you don't have much to spend, I didn't have much to spend. I bought books, right? I bought books. Buy this book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. Fantastic book. So I've got a bookshelf right next to me here. It's full of books. And then I eventually began to write books. So I've written 4 business books and 1 children's book. And I've created multiple courses, I've given multiple presentations, spoken on different stages, and, ran different groups. So it's just a case of I made a decision where I'm not just going to use my muscles to make money. I'm going to start using my mind, and I'm going to start to develop models and share those with people. So this is it, guys. I hope you'll take this seriously. I have an event coming up. It's the Moment Breakthrough Experience. It's coming up December 5th, Friday. We begin at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. It's free to join. I'm going to help you get crystal clear on your priorities and your goals and your dreams for next year. We're going to set some goals and develop a plan. I'm going to help you rewire your brain so that we focus on those goals. And then we're going to get very specific and get in the weeds with our first 12 weeks of the new year, so we can get started quickly and moving forward faster in our life and in our business. So I hope to see you there. I'll put a link in the description. Till next time, this is your moment.